Coming up on this edition of Carolina Insider, as the war between print and digital journalism continues, how one local newspaper is having to adapt, and a local library is taking a stand against fake news.
I think that it helps folks make sure that what they're looking at is an accurate source of information.
But first, Democratic candidates are still trying to make a bigger impact in the Palmetto State. Carolina Insider starts now. Hello and welcome to this edition of Carolina Insider. I'm McDowell. Our top story today, cooler weather may be here, but the political race is heating up. While he's been here before on campaign stops, Democratic candidate Pete Buttigieg has just started advertising in South Carolina this week for his campaign. He's investing $2 million for TV and radio ads. Also, Democratic candidate Cory Booker has registered for the primary in South Carolina and is trying to make an impact on black male voters in the Palmetto State. With election season coming up, it's important to make sure you aren't consuming false information. One local library has introduced a new software program to help you do just that. Today's Tech Buzz, Jacob Sloan is here to tell us more about it. Jacob?
Thanks, Brendan. The Richland Library just added a program called NewsGuard to all of its computers. It helps users determine which websites are reliable and which can be misleading. Library officials say it color codes each website based on reliability and accuracy, and has separate categories for satire and user-created content like Wikipedia.
I think that it helps folks make sure that what they're looking at is an accurate source of information. I think that we're in an age where there's a lot of fake news out there. I think that we're in an age where you really need to make sure that what you're looking at is not biased.
The Richland Library is one of the first in the country to use NewsGuard and the first to use it in the Palmetto State. The program is up and running at all Richland Library locations. Back to you, Brendan.
Thanks, Jacob. From digital news to print news, one local paper won't be printing as often, starting in the new year. As Carolina Insider's Mercy Myers reports, state newspaper readers are in for some changes.
The state newspaper is one of South Carolina's premier news publications. For more than a century, reporters and editors have worked day in and out to tell the stories of their community. As senior editor of news Paul Osmondson says, he and his team play a crucial watchdog role in society.
When you have a free press that can ask questions, the tough questions that maybe some people aren't willing to ask of people in both parties, and getting to the truth of the issues is vitally important for us.
But technology is changing journalism in good ways and bad. These days, a single employee can do the job of many, from gathering and writing the story to publishing elements on mobile and social, even shooting their own video. That means fewer jobs, and with more people going online to read their news, print subscriptions are down.
Over the last 15 or 20 years, customers, consumers, readers have been telling us that they want that news delivered in different ways. And so we now have online options for delivering news and for reporting the news.
And what's happening here at the state is happening across the country. A recent Pew Research study showed that in the past 10 years, the number of newsroom employees employed at U.S. newspapers declined almost 50%, while in digital native newsrooms, the number of employees increased over 80%. Eileen Waddell worked at the state newspaper for over 20 years. 17 of those years, she was assistant managing editor. Waddell herself was affected by the newspaper's downsizing. She now teaches journalism at the University of South Carolina. She says the last couple of decades have been rough on print journalism as advertisers decide to put their money elsewhere. She says the changes have been especially hard on older readers.
There are lots of people, not just people who've done it for decades, but lots of people who would prefer to have a print product in their hand.
But employees at newspapers like the state are just reacting to what's coming from the top down. Lots of cutbacks, lots of changes, but one thing hasn't changed.
The desire, the drive, the passion for good journalism, for good stories, for holding people accountable, for holding people in government accountable.
For Carolina Insider, I'm Mercy Myers.
In sports news, Gamecock football is over and it's time to look ahead to basketball season. The Lady Gamecocks are red hot this season after beating the number 2 team Baylor in the Paradise Jam tournament. The Gamecock men's basketball team looks to continue their non-conference slate after some tough games so far. Here are some of the upcoming games for both teams. The men's team will play host to the Houston Cougars at noon on Sunday, and the Lady Gamecocks and their hot streak will face Temple on the road tomorrow at 3 p.m. That's it for this edition of Carolina Insider, a student production here in the Kennedy Greenhouse Studio in the School of Journalism and Mass Communications. This will be our last broadcast of the semester. We'll see you back here in the spring. Thanks for joining us.